This is the khatam of the ISAGOGE, which was always a big thing in the madrasas. When you finished a text, it was considered a really good thing. So, والمغالطة وهي قياس مؤلف من مقدمات كاذبة شبيهة بالحق أو بالمشهور أو من مقدمات وهمية كاذبة والعمدة هو البرهان لا غير وليكن هذا آخر الرسالة في المنطق. الحمد لله. So he says, logical fallacy, which is called in Arabic mughalata, from ghalat, is a syllogism composed of either false premises that appear to be true or well-known premises, or of delusionary false premises. So Aristotle divided logical fallacies, which comes from a Greek word, which means deception, philos. They say our word fail comes from it, Allahu A'lam. So the logical fallacy, Aristotle divided them into two: fallacies of language and fallacies that were not of the language itself, but I mean, it's in the language, but it wasn't specifically the language. The fallacies of language, he considered fallacies of ambiguity, fallacies like equivocation, amphibole, fallacies of accent, like how you say something. For instance, decontextualization. So one of the fallacies of accent is decontextualizing a statement. Another one is the way you, where you put your emphasis in something, either in the word, like you have invalid and invalid. So words can be used, and because of the accent, there can be a fallacy in what's being stated. And then you have the fallacies that are outside of language that have to do with more like an ad hominem attack. Right? You abuse somebody, so you say, "Oh, don't listen to him. He's an alcoholic." Right? And that's not a proof against what he's saying. What he's saying might be true, but the ad hominem, and then poisoning the well, like that's what they tried to do with the Prophet ﷺ, poison the well, say all these things about the Prophet before people heard him. So when they come to him, they couldn't hear. In fact, he prohibited poisoning the well when he said, "Don't tell me about my companions. I like to go out with a sound chest." In other words, don't poison the well, because if you tell me all these bad things, when I see them, I can't assess them myself. Right? And also fallacies of irrelevance. Like, what's that got to do with it? And that will be introduced also. You have fallacies of division and composition, like mistaking the whole for the part and the part for the whole. Very common. So the division is to apply to the parts, to the whole, the reality of the parts. And composition is the opposite. So for instance, some Muslims are violent. Oh, therefore all Muslims are violent. It's very common. These are very common fallacies. They're used all the time. If they're used intentionally, they're called sophisms, safsata. So the manatiqa, the logicians differentiate between mughalatat, which are fallacies, and safsata, or sophistical reasoning. So the sophist is the one who winning the argument is more important than establishing the truth. Is more important. Or they have personal agenda. People have different reasons for why they do things. And some, unfortunately, will believe that the end justifies the means. So there will be people that will lie because they believe that it's for a good cause. What Plato calls this royal lie. Sometimes the state needs to tell the common people something in order for their own benefit, because they're too stupid to know what's good for them. And that's the flaw of elitists everywhere. The people that want to rule the common people and think they're too dumb to know what's good for them. So there are a lot of fallacies, and there's some really good websites. There's some good books on it in English. people that have taken critical thinking courses will usually take those. So the formal fallacies are covered in those six Aristotelian rules, and then the two corollaries. Those are the formal fallacies. The material fallacies, or the informal, or sometimes this is called informal logic, are these type of fallacies that are very common. Like I said, they're used all the time. All of us use them. We're all guilty of these fallacies. Hasty generalizations, right? Stereotypes are often based on this. But there's also comprehension and extension to keep in mind about people not differentiating between comprehension and extension leads to a lot of misunderstandings about things. So, alhamdulillah, I think, I hope that this class has stimulated you to want to explore this subject more. I think it's a really important subject for people today, anytime, but today in particular, because we're very susceptible to propaganda, ad campaigns. That's what they call them, ad campaigns. It's a military term, campaign, right? And they actually call, in ad campaigns, they call something, this is barriers of entry. What's preventing us from getting to these people? So we need to wear them down by bombarding them until they finally succumb to the message. So that's all out there. And when you watch news, I mean, one of the fallacies that's really common is the victim expert fallacy. You'll see this all the time on the news. When something happens, they'll bring some victim of a gunshot thing, right? And he's going to tell us why we should outlaw guns, right? Because he was a victim of it. And that's not a logical argument. I mean, if you said that, we have to outlaw horses because some guy fell off a horse and broke his back, right? So you have him on TV saying, don't ride horses. You know, we should eliminate all horses. That's the type of... there might be other reasons for outlawing guns, right? So, but like the bumper sticker says, when guns are outlawed, only outlaws have guns. Right? That's not true, is it? Because police have them as well. But then some people will say, well, there you go. I support local police. Because when we're in trouble, that's who we call, right? The police. Now, there is a valley in hell in the Sahih Hadith called Bolis. It's called Bolis. And it's for the tyrants specifically. That's where Allah sends all the tyrants. He says, خُذُوهُمْ إِلَى Bolis. Take them to Bolis. Very interesting. Coincidence? I don't think so. Allah yubarak fikum. I hope this has been a good class for you, inshallah. And like I said, I did want to say that should be musallamat. It shouldn't be la musallamat. I was right the first time. That I mean, he might have gotten that out of a commentary, but in a dialectic, you have to have things that you can agree on in order for the dialectic to continue. So I'll say to you, do you accept this? And you say yes. That's a musallama. So we use the mashhurat. Now the difference between a musallama and an a priori is that a musallama could be wrong or right. It could be true or false. Whereas the a priori is always true. The whole is greater than the part. That's always true. Whereas with the musallamat, it's wrong to kill animals. There's almost 1 billion Hindus that might believe that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. Again, you know, it could be wrong, but that's a debatable point. I mean, you would argue that. All right. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullah khairan.